Hey guys, I'm in my car at the hospital where I go to Northwest Cancer Treatment Center. And today let me turn my radio down. Today I'm going to be seeing my doctor for my every 2-week check, as well as seeing a genetics counselor to get lab work done to test for the BRCA gene. And these appointments going to the doctor have become so routine. It's just like a normal drive, a routine, something I do, I get it over with, and it's just part of my life. But today I'm really nervous. I don't feel great. I feel really tired, beyond my normal level of fatigue. So I'm pretty sure when they test me, they're going to say I don't have any white blood cells and that I need another shot of Neupogen, which I don't like. I did not like how it made me feel. It made me feel more icky than I normally feel, and I pretty much feel icky all the time. If you have breast cancer or metastatic breast cancer and you're going through treatment, you know how I feel. Let me take my glasses off. So anyway, getting back to the topic, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous, and I'm questioning myself. I'm questioning, why am I getting tested for the BRCA gene when it's been since 2000, when I had my original diagnosis, and since 4 years ago that I've had my METS diagnosis. Why am I doing this now? And the only thing that's really motivating me is knowing if I have it can help my son and my daughter decide if they want to be tested, to make sure they do or don't have it, and then take preemptive strike kind of measures to prevent themselves from getting it. And that's pretty much it. I'm getting emotional. So I'm going to go in so I'm not late, and I'm going to ask her if there's any part of this that she'll allow me to film for information purposes for you. And I'll see you later. Bye. So I'm here, as I said, in the car for my genetic testing, and this is Tina Marie Bauman. She is a specialist in genetics, and she's graciously allowing me to film her. So I'm going to see if I can get her in the frame, and I'll just set this here on top of my phone. There, that little bit gave you more. There we go.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to go through my education, and you stop me and ask me questions along the way. So I am advising and suggesting that you have the BRCA-analysis, which is the BRCA1 and 2 test based on your age and family history. Majority of hereditary cancer is truly a small percent. Only 5 to 7% of people will develop hereditary cancer. Majority of cancer is truly bad luck, 90%. I mean by bad luck, I mean non-hereditary, just unfortunately living life and going through life. We're all at risk. 1 out of 2 men will get cancer, 1 out of 3 women. That's just, unfortunately, the American Cancer Society statistics. So what I want to look for is hereditary cancer. I want to see if you carry a hereditary mistake, which is about 5 to 7% of people. We don't know who's in the small percentage. We only can suggest testing to people who meet criteria. This is not a general population test. This is a test for people who meet criteria. Based on your personal history, you meet the criteria based on your age alone. Anybody under the age of 45 does not require any additional family history. The NCCN guidelines says that you should have testing based on your age, but you do also have family history. So, you know, I can't tell you if you're going to have a hereditary mistake. The only thing I can tell you is that we suggest testing, and we'll know after we get your results. We'd be pretty wealthy if we could figure out who would have a mistake without even testing. The only way we do is test to see if there's a mistake. So I'm going to recommend BRCA 1 and 2 through Myriad. It's MyRisk. I like MyRisk because not only do we do just BRCA 1 and 2, which is the highest risk for breast and ovarian cancer syndrome, but it takes care of all the other genes. And the reason why we want to do that is if we only do BRCA 1 and 2, which does carry the greatest risk of breast and ovarian cancer, carries about an 87% risk of breast cancer in your lifetime and 44% of ovarian. Now there is some other cancers involved, but the greatest risk is breast and ovarian cancer.
So there's multiple BRCA tests that you do when you draw for the blood.
There's multiple mutations in BRCA 1 and 2. There's probably 2,000 mistakes in these 2 genes alone. So they're going to look at these 2 genes and make sure there's no mistakes. There's many. But we're all going to look at multiple genes, so 25 genes.
Okay.
So
I have had a hysterectomy the year after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Initially, I had taken 6 months of tamoxifen, and I developed secondary cancer, uterine cancer, and I had a complete hysterectomy. Now, when I test for this, and it shows that I have it, and then that would motivate my children to be tested for it, do they often recommend preventive
surgery?
Hysterectomy for females who test positive for that?
Depending on which gene. So we definitely have surgical guidelines, medical management surgical guidelines for BRCA 1 and 2. So, and I can share that with you. But also, for the other genes, it's more surveillance. And I always encourage people, if they're positive, they need to test, talk to their doctors. So what we first do is see what your status is. We do 25 genes. The reason why we do 25 versus 2 is there's 13 genes here associated with breast cancer. So if you were BRCA 1 and 2 negative, there could be another gene. PALB2 has gotten a lot of attention in the news. CHEK2 has gotten a lot of attention. PALB2 carries, pretty high. It's trailing BRCA 1 and 2. This has an 87% risk of breast cancer. PALB2, depending on which literature you read, between 38 and 64%. But it is trailing. It's pretty high risk as well. CHEK2 is another gene that we're starting to really keep an eye on. It's carrying a high risk. So when you go across and you look, we're not going to go through 25 genes. It would be very, very time consuming and it would make your head spin. And ideally, we don't want you to be confused or upset or nervous. What we want to do is tell you is that we're going to look at all these genes. And people say, well, you're trying to find something. We're not trying to find something. We're trying not to miss something. So our goal is not to miss a gene. Our goal is to see if you carry one of these genes that actually gave us an explanation for your cancer, and we want to reduce your risk of a second cancer. You already did get your second cancer about 3 years ago, right? You were about 52.
I just celebrated my 4th cancerversary. I'm 50.
You were about 37 when you had the uterine, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I went through a year of treatment, so 35. I was almost, 37.
Okay. So, the data tells us there's high risk of a second cancer and there's a high risk of ovarian following breast with the BRCA 1 and 2. So our goal is, let's try to figure out if you do carry one of these hereditary, genes that predicted why you got cancer, and we can help reduce your risk. And then we can kind of guide us what we need to watch for, like BRCA 1 and 2. You've already removed your ovaries, right? With the uterus, they removed the ovaries and tubes, so you did a full hysterectomy. And that's good, because that's a great risk reduction for breast and ovarian cancer. But if it's a rare gene in like Lynch or PALB2, there might be something else we have to look for, like pancreatic or colon. So this will help guide us on what we have to do to keep you safe. If you test positive with one of these genes, all your family members who share your DNA, your siblings and your children, have a 50% chance of carrying the same gene, boys, girls. So even though they're boys, people think, oh, they can't, it's not 50%, it's a 50% chance of carrying that gene. So the risk of cancer is different if they're a carrier depending on which gene. It's a dominant gene, so 50%. So boy, girl, it doesn't matter whether they're boy or girl, it can be passed down equally. So we would test them at around age 25 to clarify risk, or when you felt like it was appropriate. We recommend around age 25, especially for the girls, because we would do high risk screening. And instead of starting screening, we would just go ahead and test. Let's clarify the risk. Because if your daughter's negative, we wouldn't have to do screening. She's at general population risk. So it cuts all those years off of screening and all those years of anxiousness. If
And
she's
she doesn't
negative.
have to test positive for the BRCA gene to develop breast cancer. She
Correct.
could develop breast cancer
Base-
and just develop it. Like you
Exactly.
said, that there was, what was the percentage?
1 out of 8 women, 12%. We
So
have an absolute risk of developing
This
breast cancer.
percentage doesn't necessarily have
90%
to
is
be.
non-hereditary. So being a female, you have an absolute risk of developing breast cancer in your lifetime of 12%. So not families like yours or Angelina Jolie, who have this BRCA. Just being female, we have a 12% risk of developing breast cancer. Now, with that being said, most of it is postmenopausal. So it's not our young girls. Hereditary is mostly when we see cancer under 50, under 45.
But for a girl like my daughter or a young man like my son who has a grandmother and a mom who have had the breast cancer, whether it's hereditary or not, they do need to be cautious and start being tested.
Absolutely.
And
They need to be aware.
there should be no stigma that my son ask for a mammogram. That should just be something that's part of preventive health care.
Exactly. And with the Obamacare, the Affordable Act being unaffected, they're actually, there should be no out of pocket for testing as well because it's under the Preventive Care Act. So there is a good law that's being used now for people who are unaffected who want to do this for preventive purposes. So it's actually good, and the out of pocket is zero because it's covered under that act. Only if you're positive will we test the children. If you're negative, you're absolutely right. You made a good point. We still have to be aware of the family history. There is a lot of breast cancer, so it could be a gene that we don't know about. This is a great test, but we're still learning. We're still understanding. We're still learning how genes interact and have a synergistic effect. So there might be something or another pathway or receptor that we don't know about that's going on in your family because there is quite a bit of cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and test. Basically what they're going to do is, I know your protein is damaged because you have cancer. So something happened that caused that damaged protein. And I'll explain how that happens in the future. It could happen for a lot of reasons. You could have been born with one damage and got your second damage throughout life. What is your occupation? What do you do for a living?
Well, nothing right now, but I had been a hairstylist and I've did childcare in my home and operated a business where I did custom embroidery from my home. So all home-based businesses and
Okay.
nothing that really,
No
other than hair.
exposures, like chemicals? Did you
Well,
do hair dye?
Back in the day when I
Yeah.
did hair, of course, hair dye, permanent
don't
wave
know.
solution.
Yeah, who
you
knows?
know,
Who knows any
acrylic
of those chemicals?
nails.
Exactly. Any of those exposures. So what they're going to do is they're going to sequence out this and see if they find a mistake. It's a very, very highly technical process. It's done through Myriad Genetics. They're out of Salt Lake City. They did have the patent on the test until 2013. They lost the patent, so there are a couple other companies that do it. They're fine companies. I just like to do BRCA1 through Myriad. If they haven't had BRCA1 testing, I think they have the most data, most information regarding this because they have the most experience. BRCA1, and the reason why we talk about BRCA1 and BRCA2, these are the highest risk breast and ovarian genes. These are the genes that we have guidelines for and that we're going to implement surgical. You already had all your surgical management, medical management, and what we have to screen for. But we would, if somebody didn't have surgical management, we would really talk about that. But you already had your risk-reducing surgery to remove your ovaries.
So for me, knowing in no way changes the way that my treatment will proceed, because I'm already undergoing treatment. We already know I have metastatic breast cancer. That's not going to change anything for me. But this is really important for my children.
And your siblings. And anybody who shares your DNA.
Okay.
We're assuming it came from mom's side. Mom can test. She meets criteria to test. So your mom can test as well because she has Medicare, and Medicare covers people who had breast cancer. So she would be covered at 100% as well.
So the step is just I get the blood work done, and then you send it to Myriad.
Myriad Genetics in Salt Lake
What's
City.
the time frame for the
3.5
testing?
weeks.
3.5. So essentially it takes a month
Mhm.
before I receive any results. And
We'll get the results and we'll give you a call. Either myself or Dr. McKine will give you a call and let you know what the results are. You made a really good important point. This test is a predictor test. This test tells us why someone got cancer or if they're at risk for getting a second cancer. It does nothing for the treatment. Your treatment is based on what your medical oncologist finds, you know, any lymph node involvement, you know, how aggressive this is. That treatment and that your chemo is going to be based on your cancer itself. This is going to tell us why you got cancer, if you're at risk, and if your family members are at risk. You know,
Okay.
that's what this is going to tell us. It has nothing to do with your treatment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Your treatment is based on all your prognostics and your pathology reports.
Okay, can you hang on just a second?
Yeah.
I want to validate right now that she is not giving anybody any medical advice. She's not prescribing that anybody have any testing done. She's just simply talking to me about my situation and what I need to do for myself and my children. And I think she's provided really great information. So please, if you have any questions, direct them to me in the comments below on either YouTube or on my Cancer Confessions website. But this lady is being just a gracious assistant and providing some information for you. So thank you so much for watching, and just leave any questions or comments below. Thank you.